Welcome back. You're watching The Money Show with me, Kavita Thapliyal. Now, let's talk about the action in the international fund space. Recently, PGIM Mutual Fund decides to allow investments in its schemes, investing overseas through systematic investment plans and systematic transfer plans, along with lump sum investments. Now, the House will accept investments in PGIM India Global Equity Opportunity Fund, PGIM India Emerging Markets Equity Fund, and PGIM India Global Select Real Estate Securities Fund of Fund. Also, ABSL Mutual Fund has announced that it will merge Aditya Birla Sun Life International Equity Fund Plan B and Aditya Birla Sun Life Commodity Equities Fund Global Agri Plan into Aditya Birla Sun Life International Equity Fund Plan A. So, what does this mean for an investor who's already putting money in these funds? Let's understand all of these developments with Piyush Chandra, Head Mutual Fund, IIFL Securities. Piyush, good evening and welcome to the show. Lot of development in this space, okay, where investors are investing in international markets. So let's take it one by one and let's talk about the PGIM International Fund. So these three funds have been reopened for investments. Tell us the nature of these funds and for how long can an investor invest in this, and people for all of those whose investments were stopped, and now since it's reopened, does it even make sense going ahead with the investment, or it's time for them to maybe rejig or rebalance their international exposure also in their portfolio? Your take on this?
Thanks, Kavita. First and foremost, let's understand what has changed and why these suddenly, the international funds have started accepting money in in their schemes or in their funds. So what has happened in February 2002? The fund houses had stopped taking investments in international funds after SEBI advised mutual funds to stop further investment in foreign stocks to avoid breach of industry-wide overseas limit. So SEBI defines a limit, and they were on the threshold to breach this limit, and that's why SEBI actually stopped fund houses to accept money in international funds or to make investments in international equities. The ceiling or the mutual fund industry had a mandate of around $7 billion. $7 billion.
Yeah, I think there is some a technical issue over here. So Piyush basically was trying to help us understand as to what's the reason behind the halting of in international investments that the investors were doing in these kind of funds. And I think Piyush is back with me. Piyush, am I audible? Can you hear me? Can you please continue?
I'm really sorry. There was some disturbance that happened.
Sure.
So the idea was, a mutual fund, as I was telling you, a single mutual fund can take up to $1 billion in overseas investment. And overall industry limit was $7 billion, according to SEBI. So SEBI has now allowed fund houses to accept money in their schemes, investing overseas up to the headroom available without breaching the overseas investment limits. To put it very, very simple, this means that if the fund houses were selling existing securities, that money or new money can be reinvested in buying fresh shares or additional shares in the existing holding. So what has happened is, again, coming back to the PGIM question that you were discussing, that in June 2022, PGIM MF allowed lump sum investments up to rupees 2 lakhs per PAN per day. In the schemes in the international schemes that we are discussing, the fund house also allowed STP and SIPs during those time, and these STP and SIPs that were there were only the existing or registered STP and SIPs, but they did not allow fresh registrations for STP and SIP. What has happened now is, because SEBI has mandated that the fund houses can take fresh investments, so PGIM MF has now allowed new SIPs and STPs registration in the schemes, and has also removed the cap of 2 lakh rupees per PAN for existing lump sum investments.
Let's move on to the other AMC's development. Piyush. And Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund is merging two of their schemes and making them into one equity international scheme. Okay, and the ones that are being merged, one is equity and one is commodity. What does this mean for an investor? Although the entire communication intimation have been sent to the investors, and I think the merger also is from July 28th, if I'm not wrong. That's the time when it will be activated. So, as an investor, what is that you need to understand? Because this entire new portfolio of a fund will have equity as well as commodities, if I'm not wrong.
Correct, correct. So what has happened is, if you look at these two funds of Aditya Birla, and we are talking about Aditya Birla Sun Life International Equity Fund Plan B, and and Aditya Birla Commodity Equity Global Agri Plan. So both of these funds, when I talk about International Equity Fund Plan B, it's an equity scheme that manages around 91 crores and invest in stock listed in India as well as overseas, in overseas markets. Similarly, when I'm talking about the Global Agri Plan, they manage around 13 odd crores, and the companies and they invest in shares of companies that are part of agricultural sector and are listed across globe. So both are international funds. And what has happened is there were some scalability issues in both of these funds. As per the press release by Aditya Birla Mutual Funds, they said that subdued growth and lack of scalability is a problem, and that's why they are actually merging these two plans. So the scalability was more an issue in this case than any other thing. But I would like to highlight one very important point that one should look at is why one should invest in global equities or global mutual funds, as they are said. There are three important parameters that one should actually keep in mind. One is, obviously, these are very, very good investments for portfolio diversification, if I can put it across.
Sure.
So,
Right.
So international allocation obviously reduces portfolio volatility. It obviously
Okay.
diversifies the portfolio and obviously protects you against rupee depreciation. So that is also a very,
Right.
very major point while investing in in international funds. But having
All
said
right.
that, if
Yeah. 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 All right, so I
sorry.
think that will be all, and that's the news coming in from international funds open up for investments. Thank you so much, Piyush, for being on the show and helping our viewers understand all the nitty-gritties related to this particular news. We move on, quickly get our viewers' queries also answered. I have a